Hello, welcome to Something to Talk About. I'm Kurt Hicklin, filling in as host today for Reed Price. We'll be reviewing photos from this month's Senior and Community Show by the BI Photo Club. If you're catching this podcast on audio, I can promise you it will be more interesting to see the pictures. The video of this program will be uploaded to youtube.com/BI Senior Center. Before we get started, I'd like to thank Fieldstone Communities of Bainbridge Island for sponsoring Something to Talk About. Learn more at fieldstonecommunities.com, where you can schedule a tour and find out about independent and assisted living and memory care on Rolling Bay. Now I'm going to kick it over to Rob Wagner of the Photo Club to get us started.
All right, thank you. Well, we have a couple of members that aren't present, and I was given some info from them on their images, and so I'll start with that. And the first one that gave me some comments was Robert Ardinger, who's a new member, relatively new member of the Photo Club, and his images, I don't know if you'd say provocative or what you want to say about it, but he did give me some comments about it. And I'll just read down through them. The plastic leg sculpture I photographed is on the second floor of a costume shop in Haight-Ashbury in San Francisco. Now, I don't think it was in the days of the 70s and 60s, but I think it was more recent than that. I noticed the sun peeking through the legs, so I photographed them from nearly directly below and set the exposure for the sky sun, so not to wash out the sun star. And I think that's what's really important about this image is the star sun. I said, that's my comment. I use an older 10 millipixel DSLR camera to take the image. It was fairly rigorously edited in Photoshop. I process it as a black and white image, as bringing up the shadows accentuated the pile noise, I don't know what that's about, which could pass for film grain. I also felt that the higher monochrom contrast could accentuate the graphic pattern of the fishnet stockings. Photographing what I see while strolling, traveling, doing daily activities, etc., is what I probably like the most about photography. So most of my photography is related to my traveling around. And I'll just throw in my comment is I thought this was really a fun, very interesting image that's totally different than what you'd normally see. So I kudos to Robert for submitting it. Okay, anything else anybody wants to say about it?
I agree, provocative, but very creative. Very
Yeah.
creative, not but.
Yeah, so anyway, it's a nice image. So you want to go to the next one? Hadley?
Okay, can you hear me?
Yes.
This was a 6x6 square image taken on 120 film with the latest model Rollei twin lens camera that had a 80 millimeter multi-coated lens, and that translates into about a 40 millimeter lens on a 35 format. I was using Fuji negative film, and then I had it scanned with a high-res digital scan for printing. For me, this is Bouchard Gardens up in Vancouver Island. The only thing I took out on this was a pole or some kind of a tall pole in the background. Otherwise, it's exactly what I captured. Of course, with back then with 120 film, you had 12 shots on a roll, and cost quite a bit to develop. And so yeah, a lot of it was luck that you got a good image. For me, my typical photography style since the early 1970s has been this sort of semi-wide angle style, because dealing with medium format film cameras as I did, collecting them, buying and selling them, and got involved since the 70s, I was testing the cameras, and they came with this standard lens, 80 millimeter or 40 on them. So I always tried to get as much interesting content into the frame as I possibly could and still have it look balanced and good. I recently read someone called this style inclusive, which I find amusing. So I went recently and checked my digital file data for data on images taken since I got involved in digital. I was quite late getting involved into digital, maybe only about 10, 12 years ago. And I find the majority of my images are all taken in the 28 to 40 millimeter lens range. So I'm stuck in a pattern of doing this that goes way back. I do a few portraits of people, but this is kind of what I've been doing, and I tend to gravitate towards it. So maybe I need a therapist or something. I don't know. But that's kind of my type of thing.
Okay. The next image, we want to move to that one. This is an image by Kimberly Phillips Ingram, and she couldn't be here today. And she did give me some comments to pass on to you folks. And I'll just go down through her comments and then we can see if there's anybody that wants to say about it. Okay, it was taken in Prescott, Arizona when she was visiting down there. The monsoon season, which I didn't know there was monsoon seasons in Arizona, but okay. Monsoon season was ending and my goal was to capture dramatic stormy skies and sunsets. I took this from the top of a parking garage in downtown Prescott. That's interesting. I thought this one was interesting because it resembles an erupting volcano and because of its deep blue coloring. And she says she prefers the photo crop to a smaller size, but I don't think that's consequential. It's a nice, simple sunset image. Anybody have any further comments about it? She's a newer member in the club, and I think it's great that she chose to participate in this images in the lobby.
You know something, it's kind of almost minimalist because it's just like there's so much open space and negative space and things like that. It really it strikes me,
Yeah, usually, you'd say, "I'll crop it to the sunset," but you can see the swirl going on with the clouds in the upper part, which make a counterpoint, and I can understand why she left those in.
Yeah, this one, it's really about the sky and the stormy feel.
Yeah.
Yeah, but then the little bit of a silhouette of the landscape adds to it.
Yeah, I agree. I think the silhouette's really a nice feature to it. And also how she got the cloud, the sunlight on the cloud does look like a volcano erupting on the mesa.
Yeah, I thought what it took this away from sort of more a normal sunset picture was the white cloud in the upper middle, which you don't usually see that level of contrast in an image like this. It added an interest level to me.
Well, and there's a real tension between the stability of the lower part and the activity in the upper part, which makes it interesting.
Right. Okay, should we move on? Dawn, are you here? Dawn is not here, and she didn't give me any comments about this. It kind of speaks for itself. It's distressing to say the least, I would say. And I can't tell who's winning this battle. I would suspect the two eagles for one eagle, two eagles, or two eagles or one eagle.
Oh, one's got to be a heron, isn't it?
Well, there is a heron, but is there? When I first looked at it, I thought there were two eagles in the back, but now I think there's one.
I think there's one eagle, Rob. I think it's one eagle, one heron in my mind.
Yeah, but it looks like there's three sets of eagle wings. That's what threw me. The dark black lines. Anyway, I couldn't distinguish whether it's one or two. But anyway, it's definitely a concerning situation. Anyway, Dawn takes remarkable pictures of birds, and this is just one of many she does. And this one has lots of action going on and a big story behind it, looks like. So lots of interactions between herons and eagles in the world. So, anybody else have anything to say about it? Nice image.
Another amazing dawn picture.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah. This was taken out by Nia Bay. She told me the story. She sat there for hours and the salmon were, heads were getting thrown in from the fishermen, I guess. I'm not sure. But anyway, it was a big attraction for the birds, and she spent hours and had so much fun.
Yeah, Nia Bay is definitely one of her favorite places for shooting birds. She did mention that to me. All right, onward. Paul, you're up next, and you are here, so you can talk about your image.
Yeah, well, clouds are kind of a cliche, but when I'm looking for cloud pictures, it's the shapes that most appeal to me, and having some blue going through really helps. I was out running errands one day in the fall, and I saw this cloud, and I thought, wow, I'd really love to have a picture of that, but what am I going to put in the foreground? Bainbridge Island is a very poor place for shooting cloud pictures because most of the shoreline is occupied with rich people's homes. And if you want something other than a shoreline, there's just a few spots or some road ends you can go to and a few parks. But I was on Day Road and I thought, I'll just swing into the vineyard here on their driveway. So that's the vineyard in the foreground down there. And when I got the picture home and looked at it, down in the left-hand corner behind that group of trees was a garish orange piece of farm equipment of some kind. So I went in with Photoshop Elements and touched it up so you can't tell that it was ever there, which made me happy, but nobody else will know. So that's the story behind this one.
Well, just a comment about Paul's pictures that he takes. He takes a lot of images for the land trust, and which they like to have recordings of what's a part of their property. And when I look at this, it just makes me think that each different of the photographers that are in this show have kind of a different bent in terms of their interest level and what they want to shoot. And then Paul's definitely noted for landscape images, and others are noted for other things. But that's an interesting part. Different people have different perspectives about photography in the club.
I think it looks like Paul has moved on to the wine trust.
Oh, this was taken with my iPhone 14 Pro, by the way.
Aha.
And you use pretty much exclusively an iPhone for your photos, is that correct?
And when I'm going out to do a shoot, then I take my my regular camera. But a lot of times I'm just out doing something catches my eye. I've got the phone with me, and that's what I use.
Me too, yeah.
Okay. No other comments. We'll move on to this is John Root, who is a actually he was a member of the club before I joined 14 years ago, and then he sort of disappeared for a while, but now he's sort of back in full force participating in club stuff. So that's great. And he actually gave me 2 images, and he told me to pick which one to use, and I didn't particularly like that concept. I mean, it's his thing. But anyway, of the 2 he gave me, this is the one I picked for him. And he's not here today to talk about it, I don't think. John, you're not here, right? I don't see him on the side. And this is the Puget Sound image, obviously a sunset or sunrise, I'm not sure which. Then I don't know what to say about it. It's a nice image and nicely balanced with the boat in the foreground and the texture of the water and the different layers of the mountains. You can see at least 3 different layers of the mountains, and then a nice captured sunrise, sunset. Anyway, that's about all I can say about it. He didn't really impart much to me about the image. Anybody want to comment on John's image? Okay, well.
I would just say it's a classic Northwest scene, Rob.
Yeah, yes, and nicely balanced sky sunset shot.
I like the balance of the cool tones and the warm tones.
Got mail.
Yeah, I think it's kind of neat that there's that sort of orangish yellow stripe in the water where the water is smooth, and that kind of is a little bit different in the image. But
There's also the angular yellow stripe going down to the left, and then you've got the dark black down at the bottom going to the right. So that gives you some movement back and forth across the picture.
yeah,
We
it's-
watch the weather every night because there is actually weather up here as opposed to where we used to live. And every once in a while he'll say, spectacular sunset tonight. Yeah,
uh-huh.
that's this one.
Yeah, I'm curious of whether it always seems to me that sunsets are difficult because you see the sunset and you take a picture, but it seems like the colors are never as dramatic as the real sunset. And I assume you'd have to sort of more saturation to get the colors up to.
That's one of the advantages of shooting on a phone. I have actually edited right on the fly a picture that I've taken with the phone. I can see and try to match the colors and the level of exposure.
Uh-huh, uh-huh.
Yeah, one of the things I do for sunsets is I always shoot in brackets because you really need to, if it's really dynamic, I'll use like 5 brackets of like 0.7 or 0.1 or 1 stop of light, because that deals with your saturation. And if you combine them together, it gives you a little bit more realistic of what you see.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's nice the top of the boat is in the lighter part of the water. That's a nice little touch. But okay, let's see. I think the next person, I do know who that is, and she's present, and she's the prez these days, so we'll have her speak on her image.
Well, I took up photography not quite 10 years ago, and people that know me know that I like to do a lot of different things. So I don't really fit into a mold. But one area that I've had a lot of fun with is intentional camera movement, which is what this is. And most of the ones that I've done using that technique are more representational, where you can tell what they are. But this is clearly an abstract image. It's a wooden sculpture that's in a park or a forest up near Coupeville. And I was actually on a workshop to do ICM, and Bob and Dorothy were there too, so they remember this. Anyway, I mean, this image to me is all about the geometry and the colors, you know, and I was drawn to that, and so I just chose this one to include. But it was hard because I do all sorts of different types of photography.
Yeah, I think you're getting to be really pretty good at abstract photography, Diane.
I can see why it was hard for you to choose though, because you do have a lot of them that are good. I like this one though.
I do too.
Yeah. Yep. All right.
Ditto on liking it.
Thank you.
Okay. I can speak to this one because I know it personally. I joined the club about 14 years ago, and I fairly immediately, I was an architect and took up photography when I retired. And I immediately got sort of enamored with abstractions of things and looking at different parts of the world and trying to make them look a little different than they really are. And I moved very early on into trying to do abstractions, and I've continued that direction pretty much exclusively in photography. And this is the latest, couple of weeks ago, image shot of what I tend to do is I don't tend to look at photography from a technical standpoint. I tend to look at it from an idea standpoint. I like to think of an idea and then execute the idea as opposed to making it technically perfect. And it's just a different outlook. You know, an architectural background is more of a graphic background. So anyway, that's where I come from. And this was an image of a screensaver on my iMac computer. Not one that I ever used, but I just happened to find it on my computer, and it's a blow up of a very small area of the screensaver. And it was taken, as well as a whole bunch of other ones of these, was taken with my iPhone 14 Pro on a tripod, and waiting till a part of the image got to be where I wanted to make a composition out of it. I'd snap the picture with a remote for my iPhone. And as I said, I have a number of these. One of these, a different one, I entered in a color symphony contest, recently international juried show, and it got selected for the show. So anyway, that's what I do. I do these odd images, and we'll keep doing them into the future. So that's all I have to say about it.
To me, it looks like a wave at sunset. I half expect a surfer to come flying out of the bottom of that.
I don't
wave.
think so, Chuck.
Yeah, I know. That's not where you're going with your images, but I'm always trying to poke them into something I recognize.
That's a lot of energy. And using straight lines to create curves is really interesting too.
Yeah, I was really enamored with how the colors, it's almost like a rainbow, how the colors can transition from one extreme to another extreme. You know, you see all the steps of the transition. That caught my attention.
So I have a question, Rob. I mean, I think we're all familiar with what your goal is. You take something and just turn it into something completely different. How much of an element of surprise is there for you? Like when you're processing it, are you really like, you know exactly what you want to do? Or are you kind of playing around and going, oh, I like that, you know? Because I know you use some software to kind of.
Yeah, I would say it's evolutionary process. I start out with an idea and it evolves into some other idea, as this was. I started taking pictures of my screensaver, and I was taking pictures of the sort of the larger chunk of the screensaver, and then I started looking at sort of on a macro scale, and started seeing these little compositions within this big thing, and then it evolved into taking parts of it and working with them. So yeah, no, I think it's really more kind of as you go, solve the problem. So that's kind of how
A lot of fun.
Yeah. So anyway, that's what I do. So okay, onward to something more in the real world. Dorothy.
Yeah, this is not an abstract. This was taken during the trip that Bob and I took to Japan in October of 2023. And one of the things we did there was go on a lovely hike, couple of hikes that we did, and it was nice because you know, they have these stopping off places, and you know, there's a ladle here, and you can get yourself a drink if you want. And I think to me it illustrates a lot about the welcome we received when we were in Japan, and what it was, this is how it felt to us, to our hearts. Being there was very welcoming, and it was refreshing, and it was lovely, and it was peaceful. So that's what I tried to put in this photo.
I like the square format that you chose, Dorothy. Why did you choose square?
Just because it looked right to my eye.
Looks good.
Thank you.
You said, Dorothy, that they drink the water?
Yes, there are some places along the way that are shrines that you can use the ladle to purify your hands for.
Okay.
But there are this was more of a hiking area, and you could pour the water into your hands and get a drink. With the.
This is in front of what used to be a roadhouse or something along the trail. And so, I mean, it was built like in the 16 or 1700s.
Yeah.
So hygiene probably was, you know, not quite what we would do.
Go in, yeah. I mean, you could go into the little place next to it and get something else. You get some tea if you wanted, but it was there for those that were that wanted some. Maybe more of it is more symbolic than anything, but at the same time, I wouldn't be surprised if people did dip and have a drink.
The reflection of the leaves in the lower part really livens it up, I think.
I was gonna say the same thing. I really like that. It's just, and I can feel like I can hear the water, just the tranquility of it. Just we've all been to Japanese gardens that have similar features, and yeah. But the leaf reflection's really nice.
Yeah, it's interesting though, the leaves in the background are green, the leaves in the water are orangish yellow. I couldn't quite figure that out.
Well, the background is brown, so
I mean, the leaves in the background are just out there, like, growing, and the reflection would be
It's mingled with the
with
bottom
the
of the
water.
trough. It's
Yeah, the bottom of the
like
trough
Diane
is
said.
is like a brown color, and so that makes it,
I see, okay.
there's, the ones in the background are just the natural color,
Yeah.
but it's changed with what's in the reflection because of the color of the trough.
Huh. Interesting.
And also the light is hitting the trough differently too, so it's brighter.
Uh-huh. Huh. Great. Any other comments? Okay, I guess her hubby is up next. Bob.
Yeah, continuing with the Japanese theme, this is from the same trip. This is in front of one of the spectacular temples on a hill overlooking Kyoto. And I took a panorama of the city, which I actually really liked, but I just decided to do something a little more with it. So I took the panorama into Photoshop and just kind of distorted it and rotated around like, envisioning hands on a clock, just kind of swinging it around so that it makes it a 360. And I kind of think it makes like a little planet with the people visiting the entrance to the temple kind of in the foreground. I was just playing around. I thought it was kind of fun.
That's great.
well,
It's-
playing around.
it's-
Go ahead.
It's kind of fun to look at.
It is fun, and it's fun to do. I think Bob really excels at this, just, playing around with different techniques. He's got a lot of examples that we've seen, and it's a nice image, but I never would have thought to even try that.
Traveling with Bob is always an inventive adventure.
Yeah, that's kind of what I was trying to convey.
Did you take a lot of pictures like this, Bob, when you were there, or was this one of a kind?
No, well, I've done this technique on quite a few different pictures. In order for it to work, it has to be kind of like a panorama, so that and you also want to get to the two ends of the picture ideally kind of match up so that you don't have a big jump. So yes, I've done this a lot, not just in Japan, but in quite a few other places where I kind of take a pano and just kind of do this where I think it'll look good. But
Where were you standing, Bob?
That's a good question.
you've been to Kyoto, I guess, Chuck, right?
No, I haven't.
Oh, okay.
But when you
yeah,
took the picture,
He's talking about the picture.
right, but it started out as a panorama, Chuck. So there's a massive temple right behind my back, and I'm just
Yeah.
looking out over the city. So the original pano is just kind of a straight pano looking towards this entrance gate to the temple, and the city is out in front of me. So I just wrapped it around. So I'm not in the picture at all.
amazing.
I'll show you sometime, Chuck. I'll show you what the pano looks like.
I'd like to see that.
Okay.
Yeah, I think we need a TWW on this technique.
I've done this a lot. It's kind of fun. I would be happy to do it if we're bored sometime. But otherwise, I'll. Are you on our Facebook page, Chuck? All right, I think you're muted, Chuck. Are you?
Yes.
I'll put it
Yes.
on our I'll put it on our Facebook page.
Okay. I like the TWW idea, though.
Well, it's not a very difficult technique. There's just a couple steps to it, but it's kind of fun to play around with. And I've done this, a couple dozen times with different pictures. It's kind of a fun technique. I would be happy to do a TWW anytime on it.
Because it's circular, I have a theory that you're in the center of the circle.
I'm not the center of universe as much as I would like to think so.
It does revolve around you, though.
Indeed.
And it's a little warped.
Touche.
All right, we're moving on. Nice image, Bob.
Thank
And
you.
Quite different. Yeah. Okay, Glenn, you're up.
Okay.
Wow.
I took this picture 50 years ago. And
Whoa.
yeah, actually August of 74.
Wow.
This is from the south side of Cinder Cone at Lassen Volcanic National Park, looking west towards Lassen Peak, which is the peak in the center there. And yeah, it was shot on Kodachrome using my OM1, the real OM1, not the digital one, with a 28mm lens. And I figured out it was a 28mm lens because I happen to have the topo map from the trip. And anyway, figured out where I was and the angle of view taken by the shot. And I could tell I used a polarizer because both sides of the sky is dark on the left and the right. And that's caused by the angle of the sun relative to the angle of the polarizer. But enough of the technical foolishness. So to me, this shows a picture of a pretty new landscape. Let's see. Lassen Peak in the center erupted from 1914 to 1917. So it's the southernmost Cascade volcano. And the Cinder Cone, where I'm standing, I'm standing on the south side of Cinder Cone, and those are the painted dunes in the foreground. And then there's some basalt scoria. It's a vesicular basalt. It's a basalt full of holes that erupted first. And then you had an ash fall on top of the hot lava as it was cooling, and that's why the painted hills look the way they do. And then the third stage of the eruption, at least in this picture, is the formation of Cinder Cone, and that's the shoulder of Cinder Cone that you can see there. And all that happened, according to USGS, they dated everything just within the last 10 years, the whole eruptive sequence there from the lava flow I'm standing on to the painted dunes formation and the Cinder Cone all happened around the year 1666. So it's a, pretty cool event from a geologist standpoint. So let's see what else. And if you get the opportunity to ever go down to Lassen, try to go out hiking on the east side of the park. Of course, a lot of that's been affected by the fires of the last 4 years or so, but I don't think the fires hit this part of the park.
I like the image, Glenn, very nice, and I like the hiker adds scale in the lower right corner on the trail. That hiker adds a lot. Have you been back there since? Because it'd be interesting to get a before and after picture, see what 50 years does.
Yeah, we're thinking about trying to head down there this summer. Who knows what's going to happen with the national parks right now, because all the short-term employees that were supposed to be hired this summer are now unemployed. And I'm beginning to wonder if travel to any of the national parks is really going to be a viable thing this year. So we'll see what happens.
Well, it's a nice image.
That living tree in a deathly landscape makes a powerful statement.
Yeah, it really makes you wonder what the source of the water is to that tree. I mean, it's got to be pretty stressed out most of the year. Lassen gets a whole lot of snow every year, 20 or 30 feet sometimes. So I would imagine that you have a shallow groundwater system there that's feeding the roots, and some of the other trees in the area are the same way.
Wonderful image, Glenn.
Thanks.
How many geology lessons would be packed into one picture?
Oh God. Do you guys watch Nick on the Rocks on PBS?
Don't miss it.
Yeah. Well, the thing to do is actually go to Nick Zentner's page, and he has right now he's doing a series. He's doing Geology A to Z, and it's on the Cascades.
Mm.
It's 26 episodes. Each one's about an hour to an hour and a half. But anyway, Nick is a great guy to watch. I got to meet him one of these days. But this would take about 4 lectures to talk about, because you'd throw in the plate tectonics, all the subduction, the different types of flows or God, the different types of magmas that were used. Like, okay, over in the left side to the left of the tree, I had to look it up. It's Fairfield Peak. That erupted 82,000 years ago. The peak that's just visible at the top of the tree, the right side of the tree, that's Reading Peak. It erupted 212,000 years ago. And there's another one that erupted 45,000 years ago, just to the left of Lassen Peak. And then you've got these real recent volcanics, and just reading about the different compositions is rather fascinating. And it all depends on how old they are.
You know, from an image standpoint, Glenn, the one thing that I find really nice about the image and interesting is the layering of the lights and darks. You know, going from the bottom light to moving to dark, to moving to light, to moving to dark, then up to the sky. I think that's really a nice transition between different areas. So,
thanks.
anyway.
And having somebody on the trail helps too, because it really does give you a feel for the scale.
Yeah.
And those yellow don't quit flowers.
Yeah.
That's
What's
amazing.
really crazy. What's really crazy is looking at the resolution of Kodachrome. Everybody, Kodachrome, what can you say? It's fine grained film, right? Especially K25 as opposed to KR and the K64. But this is shot single exposure from my Z8 camera, which is a 45 megapixel camera. And you realize just how much more resolution you can get nowadays with digital versus a high resolution film from 50 years ago. It's really amazing. Crazy.
Okay, guys, let's move on. We've got a few more to go here. Tom, you're up.
Yes, this is a throwdown. You needed a large format picture, and so this is a throwdown picture. I printed this because it was one of the candidates that was going to go on my wall. This is kind of my series of photography from the time of COVID. So basically, my jam in photography is really a lot about people and travel. I have a degree in psychology and sociology. I studied sociology in London with a group of sociologists and architects, and it was kind of an interesting sort of thing. So that's my jam. Well, during COVID, couldn't do that. So I got into macro and flowers and just anything that was in my yard. And I was totally fascinated with water drops, So when it stopped raining, I'd go out. And this is a planter's hoe kind of thing, a circular hoe that turns up your garden. It's hanging on my back fence. And this plant, and so I saw the water drops and I saw the reflections in there. And so this is handheld. I didn't, I don't use a lot of tripod, so it's probably not as sharp or whatever as it really needs to be. But it was really a fun exercise to go out there, and it kept me sane.
Well, I love the complementary colors, and there's a reason water drops are popular, but I think you did a really good job considering handheld. They're pretty sharp the closer you are, the harder it is to achieve that without a tripod. So, anyway, it's nice.
Yeah, I agree about the complementary colors and the wheel in the background showing up so nicely in the drops. Well done.
Beautiful, Tom.
It's really nice. Especially the water drops are so in focus and shows the wagon wheel so well. Cool.
Good. Okay. Chuck, you've got a very bizarre image you're submitting.
Well, to me, it's not bizarre at all. I took the picture with a Pentax Spotmatic in 1991. that had survived multiple monsoons in Southeast Asia and lots of things. And it was taken on Ektachrome 64. And it's not a technically great picture, but it's an interesting picture. And when I look at it, it gives me a feeling of nostalgia. There are 5 presidents, and this is the dedication of the Reagan Library in 1991. That's in Simi Valley, California. And there are 5 presidents there and 6 first ladies.
Wow.
And when I look at it, I think, gosh, those guys used to, after they finished their job or while they were still doing it, they talked to each other. It was great. I was in defense of the technical part. I was supervising 10 high school kids, and the Reagan Library, when they had their dedication, invited the local high schools to send student government representatives to the dedication. And it was kind of neat. And I was an assistant principal, and that's the job I caught that day. And it was, I don't know if I appreciated how much history was in it, but I was curious about a lot of things. I was curious about whether Nixon would be there, but he was, and how many of the former presidents, and they were all there. So that part was pretty neat. And I actually have kept in contact with some of the kids that were there that day, and a lot of them have said as they get older, they have a bigger appreciation of having a chance to observe the day. So historic event, fun to be there, fun to get it. Reagan wouldn't have been my favorite governor or favorite president, but after they dedicated the library and opened it up, they invited local high school students, with permission, of course, to be able to come in and do research there. So my feeling about him went up considerably with that.
Well, for me, Chuck, it's such a strong statement about what government should be. That's what I got out of your image. And it's really unfortunate that we're not there anymore.
Chuck, I think my brother Phil was there that day. He was a high school teacher. And I can't remember if he was teaching math or band at that time, but I know he was there.
What president is missing?
Actually, there's not a president missing.
Well, you've got 6 ladies and you've got 5 presidents. That's why I'm asking.
Oh,
It's a mystery.
actually, I think that the former president who had passed away was Johnson. I think Lyndon Johnson had died like about
there
4
she is. Yeah.
4 or 5 years. Yeah, Lady Bird is over to the far left.
Yeah.
So,
Okay.
and other famous people there that day that I got pictures of. I got a picture of Arnold Schwarzenegger walking up to the ceremony, and to Bob Hope. And Bob Hope I had only seen from about 500 meters before that, so it was kind of.
It's really nice to have images like this to bring back, a really memorable moment, and it's obviously really special to you, and I can see why.
Okay, I'm going to jump back if we can go back. I see John Root has now joined us, and maybe John could say a couple words about his image, which is the ship in the sunset.
Yes.
Can you get back to that image? There we go.
Sorry
Okay,
about
go
that.
ahead, John.
Yeah, can you hear me, Rob?
Yes. Yes.
Yeah, sorry for being late. Some technical issues that I had to deal with. But this is a photo from Skagit Bay, which is close to Oak Harbor. And it's just beyond Saratoga Passage. We were following friends on our boat. And, primarily I do nature photography. I like to combine it with our boating experiences during the summer. And anyway, this is very early morning. We had to,
Oh, morning.
yeah, we had to leave really early to make it to Deception Pass, which is a far piece away. And because when you can only go through Deception Pass when the current's running the right direction or there's a lot of danger there. So anyway, I was just so impressed with the colors that were happening that morning and the way that the reflections of the colors was happening that I took this image from our boat. Now, keep in mind, and this was a point and shoot, it's not a great camera, and it's from a moving boat, so pretty fortunate to get as much focus as we did here. But yeah, so it was shot with a little Canon PowerShot camera. It's 1/80th of a second, f-stop of about 5.6, I think, and 43 millimeter zoom. Anyway, primarily I like the image because of the colors and the reflections and you know, it tells a bit of a story for us at least.
Very nice, John.
Thank
Very
you.
nice.
Yeah, beautiful.
Okay, let's move on to our last candidate here. Richard, you're up.
Hello?
Richard, you there?
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, I am here. So this is an image taken on Lopez Island at a small park on the west side of the island, sort of south of Fisherman's Bay. If you've been to Lopez Island, it's a place called Shark Reef. I've been to Lopez a number of times, mostly to ride my bicycle in an event that they have there once a year called the Tour de Lopez. And it's an island that I've always enjoyed going to. It's a very rural one. It hasn't undergone much development over the years that I visited it. So it's kind of remained in a relatively, I wouldn't call it pristine necessarily, but a relatively unchanged way for as long as I've been going there. So this was taken in actually a number of years ago. A friend of mine invited a number of people in a walking group that I belong to come to a house that her family owned, or owns still, on Lopez Island. And I asked her to take me and anyone else who wanted to go to shoot sunset pictures. And she selected this location at Shark Reef. And I spent a good deal of time there, both before sunset and as the sun went down, shooting a number of pictures. This one was the one I liked the most of the series that I did there. And it was taken with a Nikon 600, D600, with a wide angle lens at 18 millimeters, a wide angle zoom to 18 millimeters. And so I'm happy with it. I was happy with it. I'm still happy with it. It brings back good memories, and hopefully it's something that people can enjoy.
Nice
Beautiful
shot.
picture, yeah.
Yeah, silhouetted tree is great.
The fact that the tree is so open, it makes it really nice, I think. If it were, you know, had a lot of, just a different type of tree but it's because you can kind of see through it into
Uh-huh.
the, I like that.
And the branches are aligned with different features in the sky too, which makes it even stronger.
Very nice image, Richard.
Thank
Great
you.
image. Okay. That completes the images that we have, the 14 images and the people that participated in this venture. And thank you all for 13 of you, other than myself, that
Done, everybody.
volunteered to put pictures for this month up on in the lobby of the Senior Center. And let's thank the Senior Center for allowing us to do this once a month, which is a great thing. So anyway, I don't know what else to say. The only other thing is it really does show a diversity of interests in the club of shooting different kinds of pictures, which is great. So, anybody else have
It's
any?
fun.
Huh?
I think that's what keeps it fun, just to
Yeah.
different
Yeah.
things that people are interested in.
Yes.
Thanks
So,
for organizing it.
yes.
Yes.
And
Yep.
thanks for putting it on, Senior Center folks.
Mhm.
Thank
Appreciate
you all
that.
for participating.